Having a good week so far. I did want to kind of touch base with you regarding what we. There's my cat in the back. Just pay her no mind. She's an attention whore. So you can kind of look at some things out there. We have put this out there. I won't spend some time doing this because we're not expecting you to do a lot of these things from scratch, but you can learn from some of our students. And Beanish was one of our students a couple years ago, and so there's some information out there. Actually, some of the questions that she had and she was using for a focus group, and then there was a set of questions regarding her survey instrument and the survey that she actually did. So you can look at these. We try to put these out here each week about information because other students have done this before you. It is possible, and maybe if you need some inspiration, of course we don't want you to copy this, but you can use this. There's a lot of good information out there too. I have been looking at your learning activities. I'm getting ready to post those online for you to take a look at. For the next one, we may have to switch some things just a little bit around because some of you were, if it comes to where it's a situation where students have to download something to look at it, I want to try to avoid that. So maybe you do a voiceover on a PowerPoint, or maybe you use one of the products like Screencast-O-Matic, where it can kind of upload and we can either have the information here or a direct link. I just don't want students to have to download something. There's a lot of information listed out here with your educational and ecological portions. I do want you to please read, because this is some in-depth stuff, and especially for you wonderful people out there online. This is really kind of you're doing this on your own. You are reading this, but hopefully the slide is the materials and the things that you see out there are helpful. You do have a learning activity too coming up regarding qualitative methods, but where I wanted to kind of concentrate was just talking a little bit about the stakeholder interviews and this meeting with instructor for October 10th is incorrect. That's from last year. It's actually the 21st, so please be thinking about that. I'll have times I'll be available for students that whole day, but I need to be able to kind of schedule that because it'll be some of you are online, some of you are on ground. So take a look at that. But take a look at Beanish's information out there. There's lots of information out here for you to take a look at, a lot of definitions, a lot of terminology regarding theory and why we use theory, and the different types of variables that we have. Of course, there's our precede proceed model again, and looking at information that would be kind of helpful. Stop it. So you can take a look at all of this through the ecological. There's good information here. There's some information regarding the cost of behavioral change and how we can make these things not happy, but easier and more, make it easier for people to actually do this. So let's spend some time on the stakeholder interviews. Give me just a second. Okay. Okay. So, one of your most important things is, of course, your senses, and we're asking that you use those. And so making yourself aware, making yourself committed to the process that's going to be happening. And one thing that's going to be important is for you to kind of recognize your own biases and your own prejudicial attitudes that you may have. We all have them, but it's going to be important that you kind of recognize those for what they are. There's a sense of what we call sometimes bracketing, which can be helpful. And of course, with some of our populations, we're dealing with stereotypes, and so we have to be very careful about our assumptions about the people that we're working with and the places that you encounter. Observation is important. You can use audio recording information, and video equipment can help you document some of this. So maybe that'll be of help to you. We do want you to become familiar with the community and identifying stakeholders. One of the things that's listed out there is a part of your information is the windshield surveys. These can be very helpful, and think of it like a trial run. Say you've say it's an important place you want to go. You want to make sure you can get there and get there on time, and what the neighborhood looks like. And so this is kind of what a windshield survey is. If you will look at that, there's some great information that you can record for your observations. You can see if there's any data out there. And so, this would be helpful. Let's see. Do I want to say anything more about that? Give me just a second. Let's see. No. So your stakeholders, I hope that you're having some success in identifying these important people or your key informant interviews. We are looking for you to have these. A lot, sometimes there are some common techniques used for this. Sometimes you might do a telephone interview. Sometimes you might do a face-to-face interview. I personally think that a face-to-face interview gives you some additional information that you wouldn't have by telephone, but given time, given what their schedule looks like, that may be something that you would want to consider. And so before you go for your interview, please gather and review the existing data that you have on your particular population in the area. Think about the information that you need. We want to be aware that their time is valuable. Looking for your key informants. Choose those key informants. Choose a type of interview. Are you going to do this over the phone? Are you going to do not a written survey? That they're probably not going to do that. Review your activities. Determine how you're going to document your conversation. Are you going to be taking notes? Are you going to ask permission to record? Recording is always an option, but only if you ask permission. Think about who you're going to interview. Conduct these key informant interviews, and then you've got to compile your information. And so you want to introduce yourself. You want to talk about yourself, identify yourself. Hi, I'm such and such from East Tennessee State University's Masters of Public Health program, and as a part of what I'm doing for a class, I just want to identify myself and tell you, you're not going to give them a lot of information on yourself, but tell them that what drew you to them. Tell them why you want to work with them and partner with them, and how you want to learn from them. Establish a credibility for yourself. Of course, you're a master's level student and you are the interviewer. Ask for their cooperation, ask for their insight, and also give them an idea of what you're going to do with the information once you have it. People get kind of nervous about that. So maybe 5 to 10 questions is a good thing. Other than if it's more than that, sometimes that can be a little heavy. Your interview is usually on an outline script. And a list of open-ended questions. That's important because you don't want them just answering yes or no. That doesn't really give you a lot of information, but find a way to ask questions in an open-ended way, relevant to the topic that you want to discuss. Start with easy questions first. That gives people a comfort level, and it gets them talking, so that, don't come out of the bat and your first question, if you were, how do you feel about abortion? That's probably not relevant, but that's a harsh question, and that's probably not something that people want to start off with. So start off with something easy. And then end questions and ask for some general recommendations. Is there anything else that I need to know? Is there something else that you would like to share with me? We have key questions. We have probing questions. Sometimes the way that people answer, you can always ask, well, can you explain that a little bit more in depth, or how did that make you feel, or can you tell me a little bit more about that? Those are just probing questions to kind of help people along. And especially if they answer in a way that you're not really sure what information you got, you want to kind of lead them in a sense. Provide a way for them to give you some additional information as you close. Ask them for recommendations and solutions. And then, if you can, if time permits, kind of summarize what you're talking about, just to make sure that you're hearing what you heard and what they're saying is the same thing. there are different types of informant interviews. Here's some examples of developing stakeholder questions, and of course they're giving you examples here related to heart disease. So this might help you with that. I do think that that's good. So as a part of your assignment 1 and 2, your needs assessment 1 and 2, who are your stakeholders? Begin to develop a list of questions that you're going to use from the various levels, and that's why you need to make sure that you're looking at the lecture material and reading your book, because it's social, epidemiological, behavioral, environmental, and educational. You're going to be asked to record, analyze, and present this information gathered from these interviews in a concise and meaningful manner, in a professional manner. And so do that. Begin to develop these questions. Thinking about quality of life. Again, we've already talked about that briefly. Health issues, behaviors, environmental and educational factors that are perceived as the most important by the stakeholder for the population that they are part of and that they serve. And how do you clarify your role to these folks to explain your abilities and your limitations? Because you are a student, you have other responsibility, you have other classes. But since you're going to be working with these folks for a period of 3 semesters, it's going to be, it would be kind of nice to kind of set that off in a really good way. Also, just a reminder, be thinking about what would be a good time to meet with me. For those of you online, if you're on campus, maybe a face-to-face is a good thing that would be helpful. If you're online, really what we're going to do is set up a time that we can talk via the phone, or maybe we can even do a Zoom meeting, or whatever's more helpful to you. Is there anything else I want to say? Probably not. Please take a look at the information that you have regarding your what we're getting. I'm sorry, she's very distracting right now. I think that's all I want to say. If there's information or questions that you have, please reach out to me. I am available to you. Again, email's a great way to get a hold of me, and then we can make arrangements regarding that. And for my on-ground students, you know how to get a hold of me, and please do. I hope everybody has a good week.